suggest anything was changed.
Well, we'll see what happens shortly as they get started. Look at that, Canis Samaria right in the sanctuary. At least we have an early weapon.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing. Ideally, you want a weapon that's non-consumable. This is kind of dependent on your magic. GFE being an Uncle Router, he will get 2 small magics here, which I think is good for 4 Samaria blocks.
That sounds right. And of course, 4 Samaria blocks not only does damage, but just from the block, but you get the shots off as well. Look at that Hoarder Crab prize. 8 bombs. And, you know, we haven't got a map check from either runner, and I don't think we're likely to see one anytime soon. It looks like GFE's setting, as we can see there, is a map compass shuffle today.
Well, there we go. I like map compass shuffle. Some people consider it a little bit easier than true Kizanity. But I like it because it gives some dungeons like Mire and Ice Palace, it gives them a lot more value. Whereas, you know, instead of 2 items and 5 items, or instead of 2 items and 3 items, you're getting what, like 5 items out of both, I think, somewhere around there.
Yeah, you're getting 2 more items per dungeon because the map and compass from each dungeon is shuffled into the whole pool. Of course, like Key Sanity, you aren't going to know what the prize for beating a dungeon is until you get the map for that dungeon, which adds a little bit of ambiguity to the early game. Oh, looks like the tier 2 tree ball is more magic, which will come in handy for Yagamoth when he ends up doing South Shore and has to take out mini Moldorms with Cane. All right, in Blind's Hut, we're seeing bombs, we're seeing magic powder, a piece of heart, and 20 rupees. But I'm really interested in where GFE is. He's taken that 1 bomb he has, and he's just gone to the shed to farm multiple bombs. You can get up to 10 very quickly this way, and as a bonus, you save your rupees.
Yeah, this is a good farming spot, especially if the rats end up being in the bomb prize pack as well. It can even speed up things. But if you don't have 50 rupees, it's a really easy way to ensure that you can check the rest of Kakariko.
GFE and Chicken Hut now gets 300 rupees, so that'll deal with our concerns for Kakariko. And we've got a bottle, some arrows, a little more money, and another bottle in the well. So we get to knock out the sick kid check while we're in town. Yagamoth sells the bee to the bottle vendor, gets 100 rupees. And did we get a moon pearl somewhere that I missed? Or is chat just saying things and messing with me? Oh, looks like it's on bottle vendor. GFE's going to get it right here. Sick kid with 50 rupees today, so at this point, we not only have enough money for Kakariko, we are done with that, and Yagamoth, soon to be GFE as well, has enough money for Zora if that plays on the radar. Which, you know, with Canis Samaria, which means you can do fake flipper to the Zora ledge item, and Moon Pearl, which means we can do Waterfall Fairy. that whole area is looking attractive now.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges with Fate Flipper. Some people like to go to Hobo, some people like to go to Zora. Especially if you don't have the glove and Zora's not in logic, that kind of gives you an additional thing to consider if you're deciding Zora versus Hobo.
Yeah, the early Zora play is always a little concerning. And just tricky to know, okay, is going here going to give me 4 items and a great sequence break, or is it a waste of 2 minutes that my opponent never spends time on that costs me time later in the race?
Yeah.
And often it's hard to tell, and you just kind of have to go with your gut of how much progression do I have in Sphere 1? How much more do I think I can wrestle, or do I want to do that dive?
Yeah, I tend to favor Hobo over Zora just because I absolutely hate routing Hobo any other way. Looks like Yaga is opting to do Hyrule Castle before South Shore. It's an interesting play. It's not a bad play by any means. It's not a play that I usually do. It's not a play that I usually see.
Yeah, there's nothing particularly wrong with it. You usually have to assume you're going to do escape at some point in the seed, unless you have some absurd trail of breadcrumbs you can just follow through dungeons.
Yeah, I tend to put it off only because, there's always the chance that it's an Agaseed until you actually get Dark World access. So escape is usually one of the last things I clear in Sphere 1.
Right, you want to be able to just go straight to the tower from the castle when you're there.
But that being said, not seeing a whole lot of people doing this, it's a great anti-meta play, if you want to call it that.
Anti-meta?
Yeah, like if it's something that a lot of people don't do, if you do, like early Eastern, for example, if people skip Eastern a lot in the early game and you decide to do it, and there's progression there, odds are you have your hands on something that not a lot of people have yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Well, it seems to be in the meta for both runners right now as GFE's on the way there, but Mirror in the first chest, that's going to make the Death Warp not a factor at all here.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about any troll heart pieces or Sank Heart in Zelda's chest.
Always good for a laugh, a groan, and a swear. On half magic in the boomerang chest, so this run is certainly paying off at this point.
Yeah, especially in the early game. If you don't have a sword, boomerang is actually high value in my opinion.
And Yaga going for 8 hits with the block on the ball and chain guard. Down to 1 heart, but that's fine. You only need 1 left to survive here. And I see a heart container in Zelda's cell, so nothing we need down there, but Yagamoth's going to head into the Dark Maze here. It does look like, from watching Yagamoth's menu, he missed the Moon Pearl. Possibly, I think that was from Bottle Vendor. So
he does have exactly 100 more rupees than GFE does.
Well, that would explain why. I'm a little concerned now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch Yagamoth often. I don't know if he uses a map tracker or not. I know that GFE does not use a map tracker.
The way he spoke to the bottle vendor and, dropped off the V there and got his 100 rupees, it's not like he forgot to go near the bottle vendor at all. It's just possible he missed actually talking to him for the item. So he may have mentally ruled that out. Fortunately, You can't get too far in the game without the Moon Pearl.
Yeah, that's going to be a very quick last location. I mean, and if he gets a glove and a hammer, and Bottle Vendor ends up being his last location, he's going to make that walk over to Kakariko anyways for Dark World access, so it's probably not going to hurt him too bad in the grand scheme of things. That's assuming that he's even forgotten about it.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. I mean, speaking from experience, you can definitely miss Bottle Vendor, and it's often a quick one to get back to check when you realize, hang on, something's gone wrong here.
More money in the dam. So Zora is officially not an issue. I think they have more money than they're going to need for the rest of the season at this point.
That's very true, and a bow from the dam is also going to come in very handy. And Yagamoth's making sure to let us know, hey guys, I've got the mirror. Do you want to hear? I've got the mirror.
GFE is making a play for Eastern.
Oh no!
I think he's going to be very sad if he goes all the way before backtracking for the dam.
Yeah, that's gonna sting a little, unless we get some sort of miracle bow right here in Sazrala's closet.
Man,
talking to the old man
with some fantastic geometry here. At least on the first two, it's getting a little rough now.
Yeah,
he was taking out the mini Moldorms though really quickly.
So we did get a glove in the back of Sahasrala's hut, and we found out the green pendant is up in the Tower of Hera. But Yagamoth's South Shore trip, not only did we get that bow from the dam, we have a fire rod, we have a hammer.
Wow. So that's basically, assuming the big key is not lamp locked, that's everything you need to put Eastern in logic.
That's right. We've got advanced item placement on, so you can just logically use your fire rod to get to the boss. Not that anyone in this tournament, I expect, really worries about dark rooms at this point.
So I'm trying to think, like, what could be the best thing that GFE could find here that would kind of put him, that would be an advantage over what Yagamoth's going through right now. Probably the second bow, or maybe desert access. Yeah.
You know, even desert access isn't going to really give him a boost. The problem GFE is going to see here is he walks all the way here, walks all the way through the dungeon, and then has to come back. And Yagamoth gets to single dip the entire eastern side of the map.
Yeah, as chat brings up, he does have the advantage of routing this Envel pod later. So it's not as bad, but he does have that mirror, so that is an option available to him later. I'd still rather be in Yagamoth's position right now, but just, silver lining and all.
Yeah, that's a good observation.
So Yagamoth scouting the Hylia Island, just a heart container, or bombs there. Probably won't be coming back for that. That's a heads-up play. That I see a lot of runners forget to scout that and regret it later. But especially with that mirror, that's a really good scout on his part. And the big key is not lamp locked in Eastern, so Armos is in logic, although GFE does not know that right now.
That's right. All right, Yagamoth doing the back of Sahasrala's hut gets his power glove in addition to his hammer. So, both runners at this point in the eastern area missing one piece of Dark World access. GFE needs that hammer from Mini Moldarm Cave. Yagamoth needs that Moon Pearl from the village.
I'm trying to think, though. Outside of Eastern, Yaga doesn't really have anything outside of sequence-breaking Death Mountain for Old Man and Spectacle Rock. So I imagine assuming he hasn't cleared it off of his map tracker, I imagine he's going to be going back there really quickly.
Yeah, that's probably likely. A lot of runners at the early parts of this game will still be thinking, okay, what is the game likely to give me that logically opens up either the Dark World or the mountain or another dungeon or something? If I don't get that, then alarm bells start going off about, hang on, the game's expecting something that I've missed.
So GFE not really getting rewarded with the early pod dip. He will, or with the early EP dip. He will have to come back here later. And he's starting at Sanctuary. I wonder if he is actually making the Death Mountain play.
No, it looks like he's
back
just
of Escape.
Yeah, just back of Escape. I like doing this as soon as I have the mitts. It's 3, not even the mitts, the glove. It's 3 very quick item checks from the save and quit.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Nothing really valuable, though. I know Yagamoth did it. Did GFE do Dark Cross?
Yes, they both did. I
Okay.
didn't catch what was in there, which makes me think it was probably arrows or bombs. Like, I know it wasn't rupees.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was the map, unless that was in Zelda. Oh, wait, no, it's map comp and shuffle, though. It's like I don't remember seeing the map. So GFE is about to get some bad news.
And Yagamoth picked up the small key and is through the dark room that is actually a sequence break in Eastern.
GFE given one rage
just let
slash.
We have time for one and only one rage slash. Then we have a race to happen.
Yagamoth flexing his game knowledge with the hearts under the pots there.
And, Yagamoth sure has Fire Rod, but not enough magic to actually light that torch, so going to do the common strat of shoot that Igor, let it start moving, and you can see the arrow move, and know that it's there to take out.
That was a pretty slick dark room. Don't let that room fool you. That is one of the harder dark rooms in the game, especially if that Igor gets away from you.
Yeah, if the Igor gets away from you, it can really bamboozle you, and you just have to reset it. And, I think most of us have had that trap where we got the key, we're on the north wall, we're trying to lift the pot, and we're too high up, and you can't grab the dang pot. You just have to go down 2 pixels.
And then one enemy hits you, and what direction am I bounced in? It's a very complicated dark room if it goes wrong.
Well, then you just have to do it right. Easy, right?
Oh, yeah. Wish I'd thought of that.
All right, Yagamoth takes down the Armos Knights, gets a piece of heart, but more importantly, less than 20 minutes into the game, we have our first crystal.
Looks like GFE is making the fake flipper play over here. So this will be interesting to see where he goes. With the bow and bombs, he does have the proper equipment to do splash deletion. So Zora Ledge is not a question.
Yeah, that's an option. Yagamoth, back at Sanctuary, is also going to do the back 3 of Escape. Take care of those items, and then, well, he's still got a Gina, and we'll have to see after that where he ends up going.
If I'm Yaga, I would take the gamble on Bottle Vendor having what I do. I just think
Oh, yeah.
that route's a little better. And GFE is heading down to Zora. This is a slow play, but if it has value, these are locations that after the early game, they become really hard to route in the later game, unless you combo them with like 5-6 crystal or something like that. And it looks like Yaga is headed to Death Mountain, actually, not to the bottle vendor.
Yeah, go for the sequence break.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a bad play.
GFE gets bombs and an arrow from the Waterfall of Wishing, but also throws that empty bottle in and gets a fairy, which, comes in handy at clutch times. And even better, since GFE already has the mirror, he doesn't have to worry about accidentally firing it during a death warp.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just a big 20 on the Zora ledge, so we're not coming back for that. Old man with just a piece of heart, and Zora with just a set of bombs. So not a lot of value in either of those plays so far. We'll see what's on Spectacle Rock. But GFE has Dark World access. It's just a matter of where he wants to go in. Looks like he's going to be going in the Hype Cave entrance.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Yagamoth up on the mountain, I've just realized, can clear Tower of Hera, get the green pendant, can go all the way to East Death Mountain, do Paradox and Spiral Cave. There's a lot of stuff open. And again, if he's actually forgotten Bottle Vendor right now, he might just be thinking, oh yeah, I'm sequence breaking Death Mountain rather than walk all the way to Agina. That's a long time before he gets Moon Pearl.
Yeah, fortunately, I don't think he's going to miss out on much up here without it. Maybe Spike Cave if he finds Canaberna or the Cape. But other than that, he shouldn't lose out on too much up here. If he finds a Mitt, that would also be kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, the Mitt would be a little unfortunate. Otherwise, this is all stuff you usually have to do at some point anyways. GFE pulled the silver arrows out of Hype Cave.
Yeah, that's a really good item to have, especially without a sword. If you have to go to some of the nastier bosses of the game, having silvers can really help.
And GFE learns that Mire is one of your 5-6 crystals. The other one is Palace of Darkness. I think he's headed there right now. He can do that combo we talked about earlier of Pod and Eastern completed back to back.
Yeah, this routing is going to work out really nice for him.
Unfortunately, walks into the Hinox, takes a death. Good thing he picked up that fairy from the waterfall. That's what we call foreshadowing, right?
Yeah. And Yagamoth having some issues with the mini Moldorm, so the hammer hitbox is really weird. And the mini Moldorm's just getting the better of him.
Yeah, really weird, I think is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I think facing downward is like the safest hammer hitbox. To the left or to the right or upwards, and the hitbox just feels so tiny. GFE making a play for Catfish. It's interesting.
This is interesting for sure. This is a long walk out of the way, especially when you've got the stuff to beat Thieves Town, Pod, Eastern, some of which are crystals. Only a sword away from beating Skull Woods as well.
Yeah, I think really the only thing I think this plays interesting right after Zora. If this was going to be your play into the Dark World, I might have saved Zora for this moment rather than walking all the way back to the fake flipper.
Yeah, that's true as well. Though it's a little hard to get a fake flipper set up when you're here.
True, but you have the bow and bomb, so you have splash deletion.
Oh yeah, it's definitely still doable. My guess is GFE is up here. Knowing this is game 2, knowing that he's down a game, he wants to play a bit wild, go somewhere he doesn't think Yagamoth will be, in the hopes of really pulling out ahead. Unfortunately, didn't work here. Yagamoth got 3 hammers on Moldorm though, so that is going to be a green pendant for him.
Yeah, other than the green pendant, I don't know that there was a lot of value in Tower of Air, unfortunately.
No, there wasn't.
So GFE ends up skipping that. He might get that time back on Yagamoth.
Yeah. Yeah, and GFE may end up skipping that just because he's got other better stuff to do. So GFE's making his way over to Palace of Darkness now. I'm gonna do that. Clear out pod, mirror clear eastern, play. And he'll be able to get 7 items total from Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, Palace of Darkness always has huge value, but even more so in this map compass shuffle mode. So while GFE can full clear this, the Dark Maze as well as Helmasaur is not quite in logic yet without a lamp. However, with Fire Ride, at least go into Helmasaur's trivial. Ooh, shot on Yagamoth's screen.
Ooh.
Paradox.
Okay, so we definitely needed that hammer to get over here.
Looped. So that tells us a lot about Death Mountain logic. We were supposed to have the lamp up here.
We certainly were, so I wonder if Yagamoth now is going to think that lamp is either on Zora or in Agina's cave. We also got Quake Medallion.
Hopefully, Yaga remembers that he has not talked to the bottle vendor. If he activates the flute and leaves, I would feel very bad for Yagamoth right now.
Yeah, on the other hand, if he activates the flute, then buys his Moon Pearl, he's in a pretty good position just having the flute and all the fast travel it gives you.
He's not positioning himself like he's going to the bottle vendor because
No.
you want to activate the flute as far left as you can because you gain control of Link when he flies off the screen. So activating it on the left and then walking right to the bottle vendor would be perfect. Oh no, he's walking away.
Oh no. Where is he? Oh, he's going to Magic Bat. He's got the hammer, he's got the powder. He's got the cane. He can do a fake powder or just a real powder.
GFE finding the lamp and pod. Classic.
I mean, I know these guys can do dark rooms. I know they don't need the lamp. But of all the places to find it, this is kind of nice. You just get to relax a little.
Yeah, and it looks like he found the big key too because he's going right to Helmasaur.
Yeah, might as well do that, and then when you come back into this dungeon, you can just mirror out when you have all your chests.
Yagamoth is just avoiding bottle vendor with
I think
all
at this
of
point
his
it's safe to
power
say
right now.
he's forgotten that he missed it. And pretty soon, a few more checks, he'll have to start retracing his steps through the village.
GFE will be doing Helmasaur without a sword, but with the hammer and silvers, that's a trivial fight. So it makes sense to go ahead and rush the boss in this scenario.
Looks like Yagamoth is going to do that Zora and or Hobo fake flipper now.
Ooh, I hope he gets Portal.
Very good call there.
Yeah, just bail. That Zora can get real nasty if you miss that Portal.
The Zora shoots at where you are, not where you're going to be, but often with the flippers you end up back where you were when he shot, which means you'll find yourself going straight into that fireball, and that is, of course, a one-hit kill when you're in fake flippers.
Did I miss something, or did Yagamoth skip Waterfall Cave?
Yes, Yagamoth skipped Waterfall Cave because you can't do that without the Moon Pearl with the fake flipper setup.
You are correct, because he doesn't have that, and we've been talking about that for some time. So at this point, Yagamoth probably realizes he's missed something. I don't know that he has anything left logically.
I think that's correct.
Except for a green pendant turn in. I don't think he's turned in the green pendant yet.
Right, he knows that'll be out of logic because his Death Mountain access was sequence broken, he knows.
GFE with flippers in pod, so both the lamp and flippers in pod today. A lot of value there.
This might be one of those seeds where your best play is just going to be follow the crystals as much as you can. Of course, it's always harder to do that when you're in map compass shuffle and you don't know where your crystals are.
Just a heart piece in the green pendant.
All right, Yagamoth, back to Kakariko.
Oh no, this is never good.
You've seen it, you've probably done it, and you hate that feeling of staring at the map going, something's missing.
Yeah, and it's a tournament match, so just that added pressure. GFE getting the last item out of pod, and he's now leaving. I can't remember if he had access to the basement in Hera. I don't remember seeing Yagamoth do the Hera basement.
He ended with a 5 out of 6 item counter, but I don't believe he did the basement. Though he did pick up the small key. So he may be able to go back and do that now. Again, knowing this is a sequence break, he won't be too thrilled with the idea. But for one thing, it's an item he can get. For another thing, if he does a coffee break strat here, it's a little bit of time to kind of replay the opening in his mind and sort out, hang on, what all did I do at the start? Where did I go? What did I miss?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It looks like GFE has taken this opportunity to clean up Eastern, so this is a nice route for him, all things considered.
And honestly, in some ways, I think sitting on this crystal switch block and just letting the tiles fly is way better for your mental state at recalling that than it was to just stare at your map screen or your flute screen, because you don't feel the clock ticking in the same way here.
Yeah, one kind of funny thing about the 20-minute delay, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you actually review your VOD. Like you just start rewinding the VOD, like let me watch myself go through Kakariko. Oh no, the book. That's so bad. It's so bad.
Okay.
Like I mean, it's good because it gives them stuff to do, but
Yeah.
it's still a sequence break. But yeah, with this 20-minute delay, you can't even review your VOD. You know, you're just kind of stuck. You have to wait 20 minutes where you can even see what's going on in the race.
You know, I hadn't thought of that, but that's a really important consideration as well. Yeah, and this is a weird mix of good and bad. The book is more red herrings, but it's more stuff that Yagamoth can do just to keep the game running, which does come to his advantage.
Yeah, I mean, and assuming this is not boot block, you know, this is another boss kill we can get. I don't know if we know if it's crystal or pending yet. I don't think we got a map check from. Well, even if we've gotten a map check, it's map compass shuffle, so we can't see without the map. But yeah, this is at least another boss he might be able to kill.
And GFE now saves and quits, goes back to Sanctuary because Yagamoth has the flute from East Death Mountain. It looks like GFE is headed to the Dark World, which makes a lot of sense in this position.
So Desert is boots locked. He did get Cane of Burna, but he can't do Spike Cave without the Pearl.
That's right. All right,
I wonder if this
Yagamoth.
is Bottle Vendor or if this is... No, he knows he's done Dark Cross. Might be checking Lumberjack, but we know this isn't an Agassiz. Maybe he's thinking that this will give him information as to what he skipped.
Yeah, could be that. Or maybe he's just gonna walk back through the...
He might just retrace his entire opening at this point.
Yeah, just walk back through the forest, check every location there, make sure you didn't miss anything. Go to the village, check every spot. Or check the ped.
I mean, I would check Pedestal while I'm here, but if he's truly forgotten Bottle Vendor, I don't think retracing your opening is a bad option at this point.
No, it really isn't. Nothing too important up there. Did get a map check from GFE. I think I saw a pendant down at Swamp and crystals up at Skull Woods and Turtle Rock.
Oh man, you're right. Oh, he got it. He's got it.
Excellent.
There we go.
Moment
he
of hesitation.
Feels behind now, but he's actually still very much in the race.
Yeah, he's, an entire pod behind, but some of that is made up with his other overworld stuff he was doing, particularly in Death Mountain. And we'll see what JFE does with the Hera Basement. Skipping that book could be either useful or costly, depending on how we're actually supposed to get into Desert.
Or if Desert's even required.
That's true. We have one pendant still to determine, and for all we know, it could be in Desert.
So one thing that'll be interesting to see from Yagamoth's perspective, I'm not sure the type of player he is, but I know some runners, if they do something as catastrophic as, I forgot a location, it had the Moon Pearl, it took me a while to remember where it was. At some point, they start skipping locations to make up for the time that they believe that they've lost. So I would be interested to see if we see any kind of play like that from Yagamoth. I'm not sure how conservative he is in terms of routing.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing people start doing when they do feel behind like that. On the other hand, Yagamoth might say, you know what? I'm already up 1-0 in this series. Maybe what I don't want to do is just go crazy. I want to just keep playing as normal and see if I can still pull through to a win here, rather than getting too crazy. Because it's not like the series is over if Yagamoth loses here.
Yeah, that's a very good point as well. So nothing in the front of Thieves Town. We'll see what the back of Thieves Town has to offer.
Yeah, 6 items total in this dungeon, plus, of course, big key and small key. Although, for all we know, that small key could be in the big chest. Some of you might be looking at that 4 out of 8 number at the top of Yagamoth's screen and going, what the heck is that doing there? And it's a feature that Compass adds in Key Sanity and Map Compass Shuffle, where it just tells you a running ticker of how many chests you've opened in that dungeon. Not one that comes up a lot, but it does come in handy if you just happen to miscount something and you need the game to refresh you of where you are.
Yeah, I know it comes in handy. Like, actually, it's super useful in cross keys because sometimes in key shuffle modes you end up with limited keys, so you have to do some creative routing to get the most out of the 3 keys you have in a given dungeon. So you end up skipping things like the Mire Bridge chest or the Pod Bridge chest, and to have a reminder that you skip those items is actually really, really nice.
Right.
So GFE did opt for the full clear of Hera. Unfortunately, we know that that's not really going to pay off of him. It's not going to pay off. Also, that was time that he could have gained on Yagamoth, but he does have a dungeon lead with Yagamoth's Moon Pearl situation. So we'll see what happens. He's going to get his flute here. Flute's not going to unlock a whole lot for him. So we'll see what he decides to do. He will get the Quake medallion. And after that, I guess it's the Village of Outcasts.
So bear with me here. We saw GFE do that wild catfish play. I think GFE so far has shown that he's not afraid of doing things a little unconventionally. When he's done here, he's going to have hammer, flippers, mirror, hookshot. Is he so crazy that he'll go into Pendant Swamp?
Pendant Swamp, I would be a little surprised.
I would be very
because
surprised.
You don't have a sword. I wouldn't put it past him to maybe run straight to Graveyard Ledge.
I think that's the more reasonable. Play. That's the more reasonable weird play, as opposed to diving straight into Pendant Swamp.
I mean, Pendant Swamp. You have to think that is a game-winning play if it has progression, but it's also going to lose you the game if it ends up being empty. And if you go all the way to Argus, that Argus fight is going to take you forever.
It's the real go big or go home play.
So Yagamoth taking out Blind with Cane of Samaria. Not a fight you get to do very often, but always fun to watch. Yeah,
and actually, as alternative weapons for blind fight goes, it's fairly safe and straightforward. You've got a melee attack or a ranged attack, depending on how you want to use it. We also got a crystal for doing that, so that'll bring Yagamoth to 2 total.
So it looks like Skull Woods is also crystal. Still don't know what that final pendant is.
It'll be either ice or desert. And GFE finished up on the mountain. Going to take that flute activated here and probably head into the Dark World Village of Outcasts area where Yagamoth is as well.
Yeah, and we saw Yagamoth avoid it. Let's see if GFE avoids it as well. You have the fire rod, so you might think like, oh yeah, let's go do Skull Woods. But you can't get to the moth because you do not have a sword. We'll say GFE is going to make a play for the magic bat before going into the Dark World. Yagamoth might actually be making the swamp. No, he's got Hype Cave and all this other stuff.
Well,
but it's looking very much like a swamp play.
Yagamoth doesn't have flippers yet.
You are
need
correct.
to go to pod for those. Now, it's probably not too long before Yagamoth ends up in pod. Especially because map tells him that's a crystal.
Yeah, I imagine he's routing that way now. It's kind of interesting to skip Dig Game and Stumpy. But maybe he's hoping to route that in with Purple Chest later. Maybe those are the kind of skips that he's doing to make up for the lost Moon Pearl.
You know, I'd buy that. That makes sense.
I mean, they're not bad skips, honestly.
The other nice thing about that Hype Cave entrance to the Dark World is it lets you go straight to the bomb vendor, talk to him, and get the red crystal hints. I guess Yagamoth already had the pod map, but the information about Misery Mire will come in handy.
GFE is going up to get his pad knowledge as well.
I suppose if you check the ped and you find out something important is there, that does send you immediately to Pendant Swamp Palace.
So you joked earlier about Pendant Swamp, but we know Thieves Town is empty. We don't know about Stumpy and K45 or the Dig Game. But other than that, it's either going to be Stumpy, K45, or the Dig Game, Skull Woods, or Graveyard Ledge at this point, right?
That sounds about right.
And with those, I mean, I assume GFE... I doubt he goes to Graveyard Ledge. I wouldn't put it past him, but I doubt he does that. So we might actually see Thieves Town, Village of Outcasts, and then just route his way down to Pendant Swamp and just do it. Unless he gets access to some other crystal between now and then.
You know, that would make a fair amount of sense. I'm a little surprised. We see both our runners skipping Skull Woods entirely. I mean, you know you're not going to get everything out of it, but you are guaranteed 2 items in those front checks. 4 items total in the dungeon.
More than 2 items, I think. Oh, you're saying guaranteed at least 2 items. I was going to say, well, map compass shuffle, there's possibly more.
Yeah, possibly more for sure. But, you know, worst case scenario, 2 items at the back. Still 2 items in the front area that are sitting there available to you the moment you walk into the Dark World.
Man, I would love it if the linchpin of this seed is a sword in the maze chest of Skull Woods.
Well, and that's what I'm realizing as we say this is, sure, we don't have a sword to get to Mothula, but we've got a fire rod. We can get every chest but Mothula. Every check but Mothula.
Yeah, and we were talking about meta earlier. to me, one of the things I've noticed a lot, like at least during the qualifier seeds, it always felt like Skullwoods had some progression that you needed to get a sword or you needed to get the fire rod. It was almost always a required double dip Skullwoods, at least in the qualifiers I played. I only played 6 out of the 20.
I think we were playing in very different qualifiers.
Skullwoods killed a lot of people in the qualifiers that I ran, so if it were me, I would be thinking like, oh no, you're not getting me again on this one. I would beeline to Skullwoods. But purely on superstition, but that's all.
I mean, superstition has taken a lot of people a long ways in Rando before.
Yagamoth getting his lamp. We'll see if he goes straight to Helmsworth.
No.
Opting to full clear the dungeon first. Not really a bad call. I mean, you have the mirror, so it's not a huge difference one way or the other.
Yeah, this isn't bad. This isn't huge. It's just not cool like GFE did it.
Missing out on all of that swag.
Also, with the big key in this situation, I would usually like to hammer Yump there and then go through the maze and come out. But
so, going back to like the psychology of a seed, right? Your Yagamoth, you last location your Moon Pearl, you just found Lamp and Flippers in Pod. So at this point, I might be thinking like, oh great, you just get your Moon Pearl, and then you make the obvious play with your hammer and bow straight to Pod. You find Lamp, you find Flippers. I might be getting really nervous that all you had to do was find Pearl and just clear crystals.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, I guess Yagamoth's already been to Thieves Town, so he knows there was no progression there. Pretty quickly, we've kind of run out of good and obvious spots to go for your progression. Certainly, I think now that Yagamoth's here, he's going, okay, the pieces are coming back together. This makes sense now.
Yeah, from Yagamoth's perspective, once he finishes this dungeon, he's got Pendant Swamp. He can backtrack over the South Light World, or he can go to Graveyard Ledge, I believe, or Spike Cave. Spike Cave's an option for him as well. Spike Cave is an option that he has that GFE doesn't, given the current loadout.
That's right. And, ooh. Yeah, here's one of those things that could be a pain for Yagamoth. GFE's been to the Waterfall Ferry. There's nothing good there. There's 3 bombs and an arrow. But if Yagamoth heads back there, that's a bit of a time loss that he'll have to make up some other way.
If I were in Yagamoth's shoes, I might... Well, see, I don't know, because I wouldn't have skipped the South Dark World. But at this point, I might just say, you know, if Waterfall has something at this point, I'm probably done anyways. Because he knew where the Moon Pearl was, so he has to know that GFE likely didn't skip that.
That's a good observation. It's sometimes what you have to do is just go, right, I know my opponent's got this. I know I've made some mistakes. If I try to trace every step my opponent made, I won't make up time. Yo,
Yagamoth getting the lonely turtle.
I love it when that happens. Sometimes the turtle just wanders down from the room above. Yes, there's a wall there. Don't worry about it, kids.
It sucks when you get that in the dart pod.
Yeah, I'm just glad they had a lamp.
You just start taking damage, it's like, what is going on?
Alright, GFE is not going to skip the digging game. And instead going to pay a bunch of money to the guy and try to dig up some treasure.
If I'm in Yagamoth's shoes right now, I'd probably go to Swamp.
Man, I mentioned Pendant Swamp as a joke, and 5 minutes later, P-Train is making all the arguments that everyone should be going there. I mean, at the time, to be fair, at the time it was a crazier play, and at this point, we are running out of spots for progression. Digging game was 20 rupees. K45 was a piece of heart. GFE is going to show a Stumpy here, and then are we going to see both runners in Swamp?
I think so.
I have to
Yagamoth
think.
might opt to clean at least Stumpy and K45 up. No, he's just going straight into Swamp,
Yeah,
which
I mean, I have to
I
think
agree with in this situation.
if they wanted to do Skull Woods and Graveyard Ledge, if they had any thought about actually going there, they'd be up there by this point. That is not what they care about.
Well, and also Yagamoth has the option to do like the reverse South Dark World, so he can do Swamp, check Balmo's Tablet, K45 into Stumpy if he wants. He
Right.
might opt just to skip those locations permanently.
And these
But he
runners
does
are
have an
probably also thinking, hey, next progression is Mitts. I'm probably going to find Mitts in here. And for Yagamoth, that means I do Stumpy 45, Dig Game, Smith Chain.
I'm still rooting for the sword in the Skullwoods Mage Chest. I believe.
Yeah, it's mean. I like it.
And before Mitts in this very first chest of Swamp. Nope, it's a bug net.
Bugnet is not Mitts. Good to know.
Chat bringing up that both of the runners don't have a sword yet. This is a rather long time to go without a sword. Luckily, the seed has been pretty generous for a swordless seed. Number one, giving our runners the fire rod for Eastern, giving us the lamp for pod right when you want it. We really haven't been restricted too much by the lack of a sword. Even in the bosses we've killed, easily disposed of with hammer, Samaria, and bow.
I can't believe we're actually an hour in already. This kind of just snuck up on us. So, I should have done this. Maybe some aspiring person in chat did. It's always interesting to see when two runners enter a dungeon very close to each other. Yagamoth starting slightly ahead. It's always interesting to see who comes out on top, if anyone gains or loses any time. Because it's, in Randomizer, it's hard to look at your whole performance for a seed and say, oh yeah, my movement was better than the other person. Within a dungeon, it's a lot easier to look at and go, okay, for this period, I was executing better or worse than my opponent. I have a good yardstick for which of us is better in that respect.
Yeah, I generally like that exercise. It's a little bit harder to do without boots, just because it's so hard sometimes to optimize walking. Like if I'm seeing, if I'm up against some NMG god and they're just, pumping their heart out through swamp and I lose time to them, I'm like, you know what? I'll just take that L.
Yeah, and what we've
I'm
got
okay
here
with
is
that.
what we've got here is bootsless, swordless, which means you're doing a lot of alternative things like hookshotting enemies, hookshotting pots because your hookshot's already out. Not to say that execution doesn't matter, it's just not your standard execution questions you're asking.
Yeah. I mean, I would be surprised if more than 3 people have an optimal Samaria strat to hit that switch in the flooded key room, you know?
Oh, I don't have a Samaria strat. If I don't have a Master Sword, I use the Boomerang. And if I don't have that, I'm having a bad seat anyways.
Nothing on left side swamp, but there were 2 items.
So, I admire the dedication of these runners. They've walked into the dungeon, they know it's map compass shuffle, which means you can't get the God Swamp where there's nothing, or where it's map compass on left side. So they just say, alright, I'm gonna have to full clear this thing. There's probably progression in here. From the start, I'm committed to doing left side.
Yeah, and it's quicker to do in the middle of the dungeon than it is to come back.
Yeah, now, depending on where the big key is, we may still see them revisit the dungeon after beating Argus.
So probably worse. I'm trying to think what could even be the worst case scenario at this point. Like progression on Graveyard Ledge, but that's going to be equally as bad for both of our runners. I think the worst case scenario for Yagamoth would have been progression on Dig Game, K45, or Stumpy, but there's a good chance he's probably going to route all that in. Oh, there are mitts, so there's progression.
And Yagamoth's going to take that and say, hey, that's all I need here. My job is done. I'm out.
GFE, I think, might be turning in the big key. Otherwise, I think he feels the same, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're talking about... Okay, GFE just skipped the flooded chest altogether. I guess he was maybe hoping for a big key?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people do this, where you go to the waterfall room, and if you get big key there or in the flooded chests, you don't have to go back into the dungeon after beating Argus.
So, in my opinion, staying in Swamp in this scenario is a gamble. You know it's Pendant Swamp. You just found the myths. I would be so fast out of this dungeon, it would not be fun. Because you know you're probably going to get a big key off of Argus.
Right.
And this fight's going to take forever because you don't have a sword.
Yeah, that's a lot of time to commit just for one more item. Yagamoth, it looks like, well, is definitely in Ice Palace now. Looks like he was a bit uncertain about whether it was a pendant or a crystal. Then finds out we don't actually know. So he's going to go for the clear here. And good news is, if this is a crystal, he knows all the dungeons he has to beat. Suppose he knows that if it's a pendant, too.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good play. I mean, you could scout the Mire area, maybe. But even if Quake is the Mire medallion, you don't have a sword to open.
Yeah. And do you want to take the chance on sword being in Mire Shed or Checkerboard Cave? Maybe not in Yaga's case. You just want to say, all right, let's do Ice Palace. Let's get 6 items.
Oh, he just got a map. So that's the last item.
And that's the Hyrule Castle map, which is, well, next to the GT map, the worst one.
Anytime I'm playing Crossworld Key Sanity with Quick Swap, I always joke, anytime I get one of the useless maps, at least it's not a bug net. Because maps, as useless as they are, they don't mess with quick swap, but when you get like bug net or a bunch of other items that you're never going to need, like a useless medallion, it's like, oh great, well now quick swap takes 1 click more.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it that way, but yeah, that's a consideration.
Looks like either a map or compass on Almo's tablet. We have some divergence here. GFE going to the Mire area.
Yeah, GFE, remember, didn't dip Desert Palace earlier. So he probably wants that information, not just about what do I need to get into Mire, which I didn't quite see
Mire
there.
is Quake.
Oh, okay. GFE's probably also wanting to find out if Desert is boot locked or not.
There's the cape. I don't know that either of our runners have checked Bumper Ledge.
No, they have not.
Also, I don't think I've seen anything useful in Ice Palace so far, so if this ends up being a pendant and nothing's in here, that's going to be really bad for Yagamoth.
Yeah. So if this doesn't work out, but meets where our progression, then we're looking at either Smith Chain or up in Dark Death Mountain, Super Bunny Cave and Hookshot Cave. Or, there's a sword hiding somewhere else and we're supposed to go into Turtle Rock.
GFE's about to get his Cane of Burna. That might actually push him toward Dark Death Mountain. Because he can combo Spike Cave in with it.
Yeah, Spike Cave, there's never really a good time to check. But when you're doing Hookshot Cave is one of the least bad times. Look what GFE's doing, though. Ha! Ha! It's been a long time since I've seen someone steal the key from Desert.
Yeah, this is a very interesting play. I mean, we still don't know if this dungeon's required, so he might not ever have to come back here.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a crystal dungeon, you need the boots to beat this anyways. And if it's a pendant dungeon, you're getting a bunch of the items from the dungeon, and you can't beat it anyways right now. So this is one of those times it makes sense to steal the key. Nothing too great just yet for him, though. GFE uses a green potion, fire rods like crazy, takes out Cold Stare and gets a blue pendant. So Desert is our last crystal. We are going to need those boots.
And there wasn't anything in ice, right?
Not that we saw usefully, no. Convenient routing here. Yagamoth's gonna finish ice and just hop straight in to the waterfall cave. So Yagamoth at the bottle vendor restocking on potions. A pretty clever thing to do when you're lacking swords. And, you know, you're a bit worried you might end up doing another low magic dungeon after that Ice Palace dip. And GFE, East F Mountain, gonna get 6 items here, and gosh, I hope this is progression.
Yeah, as long as GFE avoids ice, he'll be in pretty good shape versus Yagamoth. But the fact that he stayed in Swamp, he did lose a lot of time against Yagamoth, who skipped out on the dungeon.
Yeah, Ice Palace is a long one, but so is that end bit of Swamp. Blue Mail and Compass for Swamp for GFE. I blinked briefly. I think we saw a Bombos and an Ice Rod, but no actual advancement right now.
Yeah, and while the medallion is nice, we still are lacking a sword.
I mean, that's the key under the mat right there for Turtle Rock. Bombos required to get in. Bombos and Hookshot Cave. But
is GFE going to try to do this without a sword? I think he just realized.
Yeah, okay. We've all made that mistake. We've all tried to open Mire or T-Rock and then said, hang on, I can't actually use this thing. Oh, that was the first chest in Hookshot Cave. It was a map of Ice Palace, which Yagamoth is going to be a bit sad about finding, and actually comes in handy for GFE.
Yeah. So, if Spike Cave doesn't have our answer,
North Dark World.
then it's gotta be. Oh yeah, I guess we still have Graveyard Ledge and Bumper Ledge. But other than that, it might actually be Sword and Skull Woods. Because Sword and Skull Woods would give us both Mire and Turtle Rock.
That would do it. And at this point, we know we don't need the Ether Medallion. We've got pretty much every other progression. We need boots and we need 2 swords.
Yeah, Boots Go mode always feels terrible. And if Boots, what's going to be funny is that if Boots are in Skull Woods, both of our runners are going to feel so bad, and they're going to think they're so far behind.
Yeah, that's a terrifying thought to have. I think it's actually remarkable that, you know, we had that routing divergence earlier, all those differences in how these runners approach things. And now, an hour and 15 minutes in, GFE is walking a path and Yagamoth is going right in his footsteps. With the exception of Ice Palace.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how the routing divergences, you know, went. So GFE had to double dip Eastern. He stayed to clear Swamp, whereas Yagamoth didn't. But Yagamoth did clear Ice Palace. So despite the routing differences, they're actually kind of the same right now. just time lost in different areas of the game.
Now we were saying Skull Woods or Graveyard or Bumper Cave. We did forget Smith Chain.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely right.
And included with that is, of course, Hammer Pegs, which are a pain to do without the boots. So that's probably where they're sitting.
Given that GFE stole the key from Desert, I would be very surprised if he does it. Just go ahead and dip the mace chest at this point. That may be more time than he's willing to invest, but that to me, it seems about the same chest per minute kind of play.
Well, yeah, and I think in this position you say, I'm here, I'm at the back of the dungeon, the number of spots I have left are dwindling faster and faster. If I don't check this now, I'm not coming back here until I've done all of Ice Palace.
Looks like GFE is making the play.
Of course, it can just be 10 arrows and, nothing good. All right, so GFE gonna walk backwards through the rib cages of some ancient beast. And probably from here, you go right, you check these slightly faster checks, and then you head south, because once you grab that purple chest, you're not coming back north easily.
Yeah. And with flute and mitts, it's not like it takes that long to get back to the Dark World anyway.
And Yagamoth actually mirrored to get out of Skull Woods and then walked back to the portal. I'm not totally sure of the timing, but the confidence Yagamoth had in doing that suggests to me this is like a second or two faster, probably. Which, you say it's only a second or two. Surely that doesn't matter. We had a tie yesterday. Seconds count. Yaga is also going south. And I like this. We see GFE stick his head into Graveyard Ledge, then pop back out, and then go back in, realizing, hang on, Boomerang could still come in handy for some stuff. It's just nice to have for hitting switches in Ganon's tower. You do want to be able to grab that. But Yagamoth's not doing the Smith sequence I expected. He's actually cleaning up some old stuff first, doing 45, doing Stumpy. I guess we might see him do Smith after that and be able to fly his way straight to the purple chest delivery. But at this point...
I'm sorry,
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, at this point, I think it's a little weird to do the backtracking. I would probably just stick to my guns at this point to say, if something's there, I mean, especially if you're thinking something like a sword, there are three others in the game, even if you skipped one. Like, let's stick to our guns. We've gambled it. The moment you backtrack on the gamble, it's just time lost at this point. Also, most of this stuff routes in pretty well with the Smith chain.
Yeah. Gosh, this is one of those times where, both runners are just going to be sitting there going, I'm last locationing this. How long has it been available for? Or I suppose near last locationing it. How long has it been available for? Did my opponent come here earlier? Here's my fighter's sword from the breadsmiths. Let me check my notes and see just how much this has hurt me.
I mean, I don't know. Progression on, and this is, going back to what I was saying about Yagamoth, like progression behind the mitts, or specifically the Smith chain, I don't feel that bad about that. Mitts were in the back of Pendant Swamp. Okay. But yeah, like to go back and to check the Stumpy, like, oh, well, if progression is on Stumpy, I don't even feel great about that anyway. So
yeah,
let's just go ahead and keep skipping that.
So we see GFE turn in the purple chest and get some bombs for doing that. Good for Yagamoth that wasn't a sword, because that could be a real game changer at this point. Both runners, great, they have fighter sword. They're going to go into Mire within a few seconds of each other. We still need one sword and boots for Desert Palace to finish this.
Yeah, at this point, I'm probably not terribly worried about the sword. As many overworld locations as they've checked, the odds of the sword being in GT are pretty high right now.
Yeah, and if not in GT, then you'd stumble on it first, just on your way through Turtle Rock, where you're not likely to accidentally wander past a sword.
Yeah, that's like the irony of a god route. Like if you hit a god route but you're in sword mode, you tend to want to route more conservatively because the odds of a sword being on the overworld are much higher. But that's not going to be the case for either runner here. They should feel pretty good doing maybe not a full go mode, but skipping a considerable amount of chests once they find those boots.
Little high five from them as they pass each other going towards and back from the bridge chest. We are looking at 6 total items in Misery Mire, and, well, there's our boots.
Oh, baby.
Actually,
so I'm absolutely go moding Mire in this scenario.
Oh yeah, you've got... did I say 6 items? It should only be 4, actually. So you've only got a few items left in here. And at this point, I think you're right. You just bank on those swords being in Ganon's tower. Once you find the big key, you go straight to Vitreous.
Yeah, I would probably go mode Turtle Rock, with the exception of Laser Bridge. And then, I'm skipping Mimic Cave, probably the big chest, honestly. But I would full clear Laser Bridge and then do all of GT that made sense to do. And this is one advantage that GFE might have over Yagamoth, at least right now, is that GFE's already cleared out the majority of desert, whereas Yagamoth might go sword hunting.
That's right, there's a little bit of extra stuff Yagamoth has to do also just to go get the big key as well. They both have to go get the small key from the torch, but then Yagamoth has to dash all the way to the right side.
Yeah, it's a long check, but for 2 quick chests that might be a sword, that it's not a terrible play.
And look at that. Both runners, only for a couple seconds, but both runners in the Mire cutscene at the same time. Same equipment, very similar stuff checked. They're both going to get the big key from the vanilla spot, since they had narrowed it down that was the only spot it could be. And we're going to see them run almost neck and neck through to Vitreous.
Yeah, this is going to be very exciting. And this goes back to what we were saying. You know, when Yagamoth last location the Pearl, you know, you have to skip something to stay on time with your opponent in that case, who likely didn't do that same last location. So it's interesting to see the skips that Yagamoth has made to keep up with GFE, who's been much more thorough with his routing, but unfortunately doesn't have much to show for it. You'd expect at least a sword or something, but unfortunately that hasn't been the case.
GFE's got the spooky setup, so he's going to save some time here. We saw him get the first fire rod shot on the switchblade. We see him shoot the crystal block, and just like that, he makes up an entire room and a little bit, and is walking to the boss first. Who's got the better silver Vitreous? I'm going to say advantage Yagamoth on that. We actually see GFE take out the boss slightly ahead, but Yagamoth paused to mirror, or menu to the mirror. But look at this crystal sink. This is crystal number 4 for both runners at the same time. They're going to be able to mirror from this area, do desert. Then we might see them head to swamp before they head up to Turtle Rock. Strap in, folks. We are in lockstep.
Man, this is where every chest matters. Like, our runners don't know it, but every step they make matters. This is where, I mean, this is an execution difference. Superior execution can win a race in a scenario like this.
And you know, you were mentioning in Swamp, these runners didn't have the boots, and that changes how you use it. Here, this is a test of, in some cases, how well can you use the boots? How quickly can you start using the boots after that delay every time you switch screens? How well can you understand where you have to boot stash straight through a room, where you need to move diagonally? A lot of this is going to come down to how many times have you run these screens and how good is your muscle memory. But GFE's got an advantage here. He only had to grab that small key from the torch, while Yagamoth's on the right side grabbing big key.
Yeah, one of the weird scenarios in which stealing the key works out. I mean, technically, I guess Yagamoth is doing this faster than GFE did, but it's just one of those things that he doesn't have to deal with later.
All right. Silver Landmos means you just need to get 3 hits. Unfortunately, GFE only gets 1 Landmo on the first cycle. When you can only get 1 arrow on screen at a time, you do have to be accurate, because a missed shot does lose you that entire cycle for the worm. Red mail reward, a crystal for finishing the dungeon, and Yagamoth's going to do this fight again as well. There's 2 hits. And there's 3, so Yagamoth gets away with 2 cycles and is going to be close behind, heading to Skullwood.
So if runners are lucky, maybe Moth has a sword. That would save them a lot of time in both Turtle Rock and GT, probably. Fighter Sword Moth isn't going to be that bad with the half magic loadout that they have.
Yeah, half magic, hammer, red mail, so damage isn't even a concern. But I kind of want to see them stuck on Fighter's Sword just to let them show off a little.
Now, one thing to mention as well, I know Yagamoth bought potions. I don't know if GFE did. I don't know what GFE has in terms of safeties.
I want to say GFE hasn't used potions that were already in the bottles when he picked them up. But I couldn't tell you what's in them other than, I think, a green that Yagamoth used when fighting Cold Stare. Yes, Yagamoth, we understand you have the flute. Good for you. All right, GFE going with some spins for the first hits on the Moth, but then going to the hammer. Moth just needs to stay down in the room so you don't hit him too hard into the sides, and you don't have to face up too much. GFE takes down Moth, but Yagamoth's starting the fight just behind.
Yeah, for those who might be newer to Randomizer, the game devs and their the game devs, not the rando devs, the game devs decided, hey, if Moth takes damage from the spikes, you would kill him really quickly. So the Moth is invincible to spikes, and if you knock him into a spike, it cancels any damage you've dealt him. So for all intents and purposes, at any point in the fight, Moth can be invincible, which is scary.
And if you have a fight that Yagamoth just did, where Moth stays in the center right at the start, you just get 4 hits. You take him out before like 3 spikes have even moved. I usually can't beat him with Tempered Sword that fast. Yagamoth made up a ton of time. And then didn't quite get Dead Rock, but has Dead Rocks in his way trying to get to East Death Mountain. But, for those extra screens, he had to run in Desert. He is catching up pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things that could affect this race. I mean, general execution, fighter sword strats, how comfortable you are using, if we don't find a sword into a rock, how comfortable are you with fighter sword? Trinexx, even down to Ganon's Tower big key routing.
Oh, heck, even if they're still on Master Sword, I'd pull out a hammered Trinexx at this point, personally, just for consistency. But we'll see what strat they go with.
Practically a sink opening up to a rock.
Yeah, we are 6 seconds apart as these runners enter Turtle Rock. And this is going to come down to who does the dungeon faster, who's better at some of these rooms with specific timing where you're using the cane blocks a lot. It could come down to just who decides to skip a check that the other one gets lost in.
Yeah, I mean, even something like skipping Laser Bridge when there's a sword is could be pretty devastating.
Oh no. Shovel in Turtle Rock. That's not a sword. I've decided it's not a sword, so it's fine. GFE has to pause a bit to let the rollers reset before he's out of the room. But he also doesn't have to do the compass room still. We are going to be close heading into the second part of this dungeon. This is where having half magic is really nice because you don't have to rely on sword spins to kill things like your pokies. You just do a fire rod shot. You don't worry about how much magic it's spending. and you just run through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice clean chomp room from GFE, getting the big key already. Yagamoth losing a bit of time with the fire rod, although he'll save the trouble of menuing to Samaria and back.
So if I'm these runners, I'm definitely skipping the lava chest. I would probably skip the big chest too. I would probably just steal the Poke Key and go. But we'll see what our runners do here.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, these are the kind of decisions that are going to decide the race at this point.
Oh, Yagamoth going for the lava chest. This means he also has to go outside if he really wants to be certain that he doesn't need a small key, but that's a Master Sword in the lava chest.
Oh my gosh.
Whew.
That's insane.
GFE. Now a sword behind. That's going to hurt a bit going through this dungeon, but more importantly, if we get an early big key in Ganon's tower, Yagamoth's going to be able to mirror and climb. GFE's going to keep searching.
Man, put me in that situation 100 times. I never check that chest.
There's good reasons to go for it. There's good reasons to skip it. I can't fault either runner for doing what they want, but
I never would check that chest, ever.
oh.
I will say, though, that's like always the challenge when you're in sword mode, right? It's like, I'm going to check this one more chest, and if it has the Master Sword, I'm golden. But how many, if you do that, 20 times on your way to GT, you've thrown away like 5 minutes just checking random chests,
Yeah.
It's an interesting crystal roller strat from Yagamoth. I don't know if I've ever seen that strat.
Oh, I didn't catch it. Which way did he do it?
Yeah, he used double Samaria blocks, but he just walked up and set the Samaria block next to the switch up north. Just never seen anybody do it like that.
Oh. So GFE, of course, full clearing laser bridge here. Does not get a sword out of it. He's going to be going through to Trinexx, doing hammer strats. And Yagamoth is going to clear this as well. Third chest is going to have a big or a small key. And Yagamoth opts not to call it quits.
Man, I cannot believe that Master Sword was on that lava chest.
Now, sorry. Again, it's not going to make a huge difference for the Trinexx fight. We're going to see both of them do the hammer strats here. 3 hits, shoot the head again, 2 hits, and make sure you pause as soon as that 5th hammer hit lands.
I think Master Sword still is slightly faster because then you can use Master Sword on the ice head, whereas GFE kind of has to wait because
that is a good point.
Oh, Yagamoth with the backdoor strats. Very clean.
Fortunately, we're running into those spikes a fair amount, getting delayed a bit. Going to be a few seconds behind going into phase 2 as GFE's almost done with this fight. Nice hammer hits. Even getting some upward facing hits during the second part. Compass from Trinexx. And a 7th crystal for GFE as Yagamoth's Trinexx explodes as well. But it's time for Ganon's tower, and I'm not even that interested in where the big key is. I'm interested in where GFE's sword is. best case scenario for GFE is 2 swords in Ganon's tower before the big key even shows up. Then GFE's on tempered, Yagamoth's on gold sword, and it's functionally the same difficulty, the same speed for climbing. Worst case is we get an early big key. Worst case for GFE. Best case for Yagamoth. Early big key. Yagamoth climbs the tower and just runs ahead with this.
Yeah, I think best case scenario, there's one sword in between the. I mean, just trying to be as reasonable as possible. There's one sword in between GFE and the big key. But even then, you still have Master Sword to your opponent's tempered, which is still a really big gap.
Oh yeah, that's not a difference you can overcome if your opponent knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, in Yagamoth busting out, backdoor hammer strats on Trinexx, this isn't his first rodeo in terms of execution. He's put some practice into this game.
We do see a divergence here. GFE is doing the Dark Magician strat going right side after Stalfos room, while Yagamoth's doing the normal-ish left side strat. I don't know what normal is anymore for this dungeon, but...
Well, it's worth noting, and I don't know how GFE considers this, but there was no small key in the Hope room, so he knows that unless his opponent is doing this exact same strat, there was no way his opponent could have done right side.
That's right.
Usually in this scenario, if I don't find a big key over here, I just go ahead and do the full Dark Magician. It's like a double or nothing, because the full Dark Magician, it is, at that point, the fastest way to get to Armos.
Well,
We'll see.
Fire of our room
Yagamoth
had the big key for Yagamoth.
That's real bad for GFE.
GFE gets no sword, no big key on the right side. Yagamoth is going to start climbing this tower. And as you said, GFE is doing the full right side strat, going all the way to Ice Armos.
Well, it's because it's the double or nothing, because your opponent didn't do the right side. So otherwise, you're quite literally forfeiting that time to your opponent.
Yagamoth drops off the bridge the moment he enters the cannonball room. By design, if you do that, you can just dash through all the cannonballs before your iframes wear off. And heading into the gauntlet, we're going to see a lot of bow, pot throwing action, and possibly a switch to fire rod later on. GFE beats Ice Armos. 3 chests back here, but it's 20 rupees, a small key, and bombs. Not even the sword he really needs to find.
This is never a good feeling.
On Yagamoth's side, a very clean Lanmo 2 fight. Just 3 silver arrows. Boom, boom, boom. We're past the gauntlet, more challenging part, and now we're on to the fun part where you just get to Samaria the Wizrobes.
It was one of those rooms I found to be deceptively hard when I was first learning Randomizer. Like, it looks so easy, but there's a surprising amount of timing to it.
It's always faster than the way I used to do it as a kid, which was Ether or Bombos. But you're right, it's certainly a room that needs some finesse and some practice to get down.
So GFE already having the bad news about the big key. So he knows, number one, that he did the worst route for that particular big key location. Also, Yagamoth has not found the sword yet. So he's got 2 more chests in which GFE might possibly find the sword.
Well, there's one at the very top, right before Moldorm. Yagamoth's Tempered Sword. Just what he wants to see.
Yeah, I honestly can't think of anything that puts GFE back in the game. At least he leaves GT with the Master Sword.
Yeah, GFE will have the boost there. Yagamoth's going to go into this fight with Ganon and just be able to blaze right through it. I appreciate GFE doing the thing where you've got the big key, so you do check the big chest, just in the hope your sword is going to be there. But this will be the best possible option GFE can do at this point. Climb the tower, end up getting that sword at the top. It is not going to help, though. Yagamoth is on Ega 2 with 6. Oh, that is not 6 yet. That's 5. There's the 6th.
Yeah, good use of the cape there. It's not a strat that's ever occurred to me, honestly. GFE getting Spike Dash.
And Yagamoth gets 1 cycle on phase 1, dashing in the circle of bats. Looks like he wasn't going to make the 1 cycle on phase 2, and in fact, doesn't make it, getting hit a couple times. But Cape will keep him safe. And he's got enough of the lead, this is not going to hurt him.
Yeah, now GFE has to do Fighter Sword, Gauntlet.
And Yagamoth into phase 4 now, getting 2 hits on Ganon already. Watch this. He waits for Ganon to come back down into the middle of the room, lights the torch, almost takes a fall.
Ooh.
But then gets the double. And Yagamoth, with that, is going to walk through, finish up the race. Do you have an official time for him?
Official time of 1 hour, 48 minutes, and 48 seconds.
Well, congrats to Yagamoth on that victory and that race that went all kinds of weird for both runners all over the place. That is a 2-0 victory in this series for Yagamoth. We're going to let GFE... But we might get Yagamoth in here to chat about this as well. We do have Yagamoth with us here. Good game, and congratulations on the 2-0 victory in the series.
Thank you, and well, good evening. That was... I feel like I got way too lucky in this seed after I kinda royally messed up.
Kinda royally messed up?
Yeah, that Moon Pearl. Just... I forgot entirely that Bottle Vendrix...
We were wondering, do you play with a map tracker by chance?
I do, and I did click it off. So normally what I do is I just do the entire series of Thieves hideout and then the well, and then I just, on the way to the chicken hut, I check the bottle vendor. I have no idea why I apparently didn't do this time. So, just complete it.
So you were actually neck and neck with GFE from the last Crystal on. Do you have a guess as to what play may or may not have given a significant advantage over GFE?
Well, having talked to GFE already, I would assume it's just a sword. That one sword location that he skipped.
Yes.
Lava chest and TR, that's right.
Yeah. I was so strongly considering skipping that one as well, but I just, on a whim, decided to check it anyway.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because, in my opinion, that was a huge play. I made a big deal out of it on stream. I was like, you put me in that same position 100 times. I'm skipping that chest every time. And it seemed like you had skipped a lot up until that point. I think you skipped, which you later went back to check it, but, you initially skipped Dig Game, South Shore, Dig Game, K45, Stumpy, instead opting to go straight to Hype Cave and take that into Pod. What was it that made you check the lava chest after already having decided to skip, some locations out in the open?
So basically, the reason why I skipped so many locations in the open, or just in the overworld in general, is mainly because I felt so far behind after that Moon Pearl debacle. So at that point, I felt like maybe I should be about, like, in the run back again, because I ended up just skipping so many things and I found stuff reasonably quickly. Like, for example, the main worry was that I didn't find the sword quick enough, because the smiths is something you usually check relatively quickly. I also completely cleared Ice Palace and a few other things, but specifically that lava room chest, I felt like if there is something there, I will want to check the chests that are along the way. I actually don't usually get into the situation where I would check that one in particular, because I usually have just another sword, and as long as I have at least Master Sword, I will skip it. But because we didn't even have Master Sword yet, I think that's probably what made me just check it out first.
Okay, nice. What were your general thoughts on the siege, just in terms of going so long without a sword?
Yeah. I was mainly worried that they were just swords laying above you on the overworld on locations that I skipped. So that was kind of my main concern. Aside from that, I kind of enjoyed the type of challenge, but not necessarily when I don't know whether there's just a sword around the corner that I happen to miss because I skipped a bunch like Argus and such.
Yeah, that's one thing we were talking about. In terms of just routing differences, you left Swamp Palace immediately after Bits. GFE stayed to kill Argus. You cleared Ice Palace, whereas GFE didn't. And you would think GFE checked Catfish, which you had avoided. You would think that one of you would have found the sword, in one of those checks, but I have no clue where the fourth sword is.
That's kind of weird. So the thing is, I actually had no idea whether Ice Palace was a pendant or a crystal at the time, so I just kind of hoped it was a crystal. That's why I thought.
Sorry to stop you, but we do want to celebrate GFE. It looks like he has finally killed Ganon. He'll be walking across the bridge shortly. And that gives him an official SRL time of 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 30 seconds.
And quick as a bunny, GFE is in here with us as well.
GG, GFE.
Hey, GG's to Yagamoth. Oh,
GG.
that was...
So, GFE, you have some information for us, something to tell us for fun?
Oh, yes. I finally got my tempered sword, just not where Yaga got his second sword. Final sword was in Pyramid Fairy.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, that's a little mean in this seed.
So I guess that means you literally had one sword available to open T-Rock or Mire.
Yeah.
I was hoping with all of my being that it was in the Skullwoods maze chest. Just for the record.
I mean, I was gambling that. I didn't want to go to the back of Skull, but there wasn't much left. And of course, the sword ends up being on Smith, of all places. I mean, that's appropriate, I guess.
So this ended up being a very interesting race. You started off with Yagamoth last locationing the Moon Pearl on Bottle Vendor. Luckily, he figured it out pretty quickly once it was his last location. But there was some confusion where it was clear that something was wrong. So after that, he started skipping locations. Jiffy, you had some early missteps that kind of costed you a little bit of time. You did have to double dip Eastern, whereas Yagamoth only single dipped it. But by the time you cleared Pod, you were basically a dungeon up over Yagamoth. Where he got back a little bit of time was you opted to stay in Swamp Palace and do Swordless Argus. And then also, I think the big key was like the big key. So yeah, you did Swordless Argus. Also stealing the key took a little bit of time. Yagamoth did do the full clear of ice, but also you were a little bit more thorough on the overworld, whereas Yagamoth skipped that, likely due to the fact he just fell behind in the Moon Pearl. But you both were completely synced, getting your crystal from Vitreous, opening Turtle Rock, all the way until that lava chest in Turtle Rock.
Yeah, we're talking
seriously?
seconds apart. And GFE went down, stole the key, walked back up. Yagamoth went down, stole the key. We thought he was going to turn around and walk back up, and he went right, and we knew that would have some impact. We just didn't know how much.
Oh man, that hurts. I already knew going in the only thing I was skipping was Lava Chest and Mimic Cave. Oh
Yeah, it
that
also
does hurt.
didn't. Your GT route didn't do you any favors either. Yagamoth did Hope Room and went left, so he got the big key relatively soon in the Fireball chest.
I was pretty sure that was the route Yagamoth would take. It's what he did in our first match. So, I was doing Dark Magician hoping it would pay off, and I needed a sword anyway. So, I was already full clearing the basement. I just didn't realize that sword and Lava Chest made up that much time difference. I mean, I guess I did have to do the GT climb on Fighter Sword, which is not fun.
Yeah. So Yagamoth, I did have a question. When you did Ice Palace, I think you had Smith Chain, you had the K45 and Stumpy Bombos tablet sequence, and you also had Dark Death Mountain. What was it that made you want to do a Swordless Ice Palace, in which you didn't know that it was Pendant or Crystal? What made you want to do that dive over the overworld checks?
Generally speaking, that's how I play. Like, I just go into dungeons, and in this case, I probably would not have done that if it was a pendant, if I knew it was a pendant anyways. But I just hoped it would be a crystal, and considering that we have map and compass shuffle, there was just 2 more items in Ice Palace in general, in a certain sense. So I figured, let's just see whether I will find something in there, which did not end up quite paying off. But that's just, I feel like doing dungeons when you can clear them rather than overworld just makes more sense if you can also grab some items along the way and hope that those are the items you need.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was going to do Dark Death Mountain first, just so I'd have the knowledge of what T-Rock required. And then I was going into... But when I found Ice Palace Mountain, that led me away from Ice Palace, because I knew it was Pendant then. and I was kind of 50-50 after I did my graveyard ledge check. I was between jumping in the whirlpool and going into ice, and then going back for Smith Chain. So I'm glad I at least chose.
Yeah, so I felt like GFE routed pretty conservatively. Yagamoth, the fact that you were one game up, did that play into your routing decisions at all? Did you feel like at any point, like, you know what, I can gamble a little, but I don't have to go crazy because I'm still a game up? Did that affect your decision-making process at all?
Honestly, not really. That did not come to my mind. I tend to either go super aggressive on all the skips or super conservative. And I kind of switched that up in this game here mid-game because I felt so.
Yeah, especially with sword mode, sometimes gambling is a little dubious just because there are 4 swords. So the chances of you skipping one of those are kind of go up. But GFE, how did you feel about being, I guess, an hour plus in this without a sword?
Honestly, I can't remember what match it was, but I've had another match recently where my go mode was sword. So for me, it's a few times in my rando career, and I've had it happen twice recently now. Never feels good to go without a sword that long. It feels even worse when you know that that's basically your go mode, although really boots ended up being go mode, but sword locked the boots. So it was a rough seed. I thought I might have had a chance of being toward the beginning, even though you mentioned me double dipping Eastern. When I found silvers and then was able to just finish it off with pod, it didn't feel that bad, so probably didn't really lose that much time on it. And the whole reason I chose Eastern to begin with is kind of the same thing Yagamoth mentioned about ice. I knew that there were 2 more items in there than usual. Eastern made a little more sense. It's just sad the bow showed up right after that.
Yeah. And one thing I will say, like the finish times do not do this race justice for how close it really was. If Yagamoth doesn't check the lava chest, then these times are much, much closer than what they ended up being.
I will say one thing, P-Train, and I did it for you, or should I say I didn't do it for you. You told me never check tile room, so I didn't.
I saw your key count, and I almost mentioned on stream that you're a fan of the tile room, but I didn't want to mention it, and then you skip it. So, but you just know that I thought about it. I'm like, he ain't gonna do it. Surely he won't do it.
When it was time to climb, I was like, I'm still not checking it. If it's not up top GT, then I've got Pyramid Fairy, which would have actually been the right play. And then I had the 2 bonk checks also that I hadn't done. So there were still a few fast checks left.
Nice. Yagamoth, do you have any thoughts on the seed before we start signing off?
It was very weird playing like maps and compass shuffle because I did literally just my first seed earlier today, but I felt like that thing was all over the place, but at the same time kind of interesting. So
yeah, you both displayed some really, I guess, some good ingenuity in terms of some of the strats, like particularly in Swamp, getting switches and stuff like that. Just handling the routing and handling the execution without items that you're used to having. It was a pleasure to watch. GFE, what about you?
Well, I'm glad the seed's over. I didn't expect to beat Yagamoth. I was hoping I might take one match. But I look forward to hopefully showing up or having a good show in the next one. I don't know who I'm facing yet. Humbug and Sailor Net are both 1-1, so I'm curious to see how that last match turns out. But let me just real quick before y'all sign off, thank you guys, Phylon and P-Train, for the commentary. I really look forward to hearing what all y'all had to say about this mess. And then, thanks to our tracker, Low Boy, I'm guessing.
Yep.
And thanks to the Speed Gaming crew, as usual.
I second this. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Byron, did you have any questions or comments before you sign up?
I was going to mention who they were facing in the next series. I was going to mention thanks to Lowboy for tracking. And thanks to the runners for running. Be sure to give them a follow if you haven't already. I think we covered everything. I will say, stick around on this channel. In about 25 minutes, you're going to see Emosaru and Trinexx facing off against each other. And that's one of the matches I've been really excited for in this group stage. So stand up, take a stretch, maybe get a drink, a snack, come back in 20 minutes, and watch some more Randomizer. Have a good night.